Good morning and welcome to the joint special meeting of the Board of Supervisors, the City of Lakeport, and the City of Clearlake. If we could please rise for a moment of silence. Today we will remember those soldiers who have lost their lives this last week on American soil. One that had actually just graduated boot camp the month before. You could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to our 4.1 item. Our 9 a.m. joint workshop of County of Lake, Cities of Lakeport, and Clearlake of the Lake County Economic Development's update on broadband. Good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today and joining us. With the county and the two cities, these joint meetings are a result of a collaboration on significant projects that our respective jurisdictions embarked on. At last year's meeting, Dr. Rob Eiler presented the Lake County Economic Development Plan, which had been a collective work between the Board of Supervisors, the cities, Workforce Alliance of North Bay, and Lake County Economic Development Corporation. After that meeting, each of our jurisdictions took the plan back for discussion and ultimately adoption. We are here today to hear updates on the progress being made on that plan. Working together on big things that matter to our community enables us to accomplish more by completing them together. I'm encouraged by the progress we are making, and I want to thank you for your input and being a part here today. I'd like to introduce my board, and then I'm going to have each mayor introduce theirs. We have Supervisor Sabatier and Supervisor Brown here today with me. So I will hand it over to the City of Clearlake for their introductions.
Good morning. I'm Mayor Kramer. To my right is Vice Mayor Slotin, and to my left, Council Member Harris and Council Member Overton.
If you could call your meeting to order. I actually forgot that. Just
you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'll officially call this meeting of the City of Clearlake Council together.
I will officially declare the meeting for the City of Lakeport open. I am George Spur, Mayor Pro Tem. To my left is Kenny Parlett, Council Member, Stacy Matina, Council Member, and Mireya Turner, Council Member.
Okay. With that, we will hand the mic over to Stephanie Ashworth, who is the President of Lake County Economic Development Corporation. Stephanie. Thank you.
Can I pick it up? Yes. Okay. Thank you for having us today. Thank you for having us, and thank you for showing up this morning. We have a little bit smaller group than last year, but we're still excited to be presenting to you a progress report of what we've been doing over the last year and a little bit about what we do as an economic development board. So first, we have our board of directors, and we have a combination, a mixture of the private sector and the tribal health. Education is represented in our local government. So we have a diverse and dynamic board, which we're doing a lot of things. This is our mission statement. The mission statement is to facilitate the creation and retention and expansion and attraction of business to Lake County. Some of the ongoing work, really quick, we're going to just touch on what we do as a board. We provide funding and technical assistance to our local businesses. One of the things we do is lending, and we have credit requests for different types of loans that maybe aren't able to get done at a local financial institution. Maybe it needs a second look at. So the Economic Development Board has a finance committee that takes a look at startups. We do lending for some businesses got stretched a little thin during the fire. We've been able to get some lending done. We've funded 32 loans for over $3 million, which is really great, and in the process helped to either create or retain jobs throughout Lake County. So the technical assistance piece is where we provide marketing ideas, business plans, businesses that are looking to go into business, some consultation, those types of services. They're all free to the public and to our local businesses. So that's. We also are doing a housing program. We started doing some mortgage lending for homes, people that live in Lake County. But one of the things that it came from is we went to our larger employers and asked them, what can we do to help support your business? And one of the ideas came as a part of retention for their employees. That's how we came into the housing piece. So we went out and met with Beckstoffer and did a housing workshop. It was our first of 8 workshops this last year and had a tremendous turnout. A lot of their vineyard workers came out. We did the workshop in English and Spanish, and some realtors came out, some other mortgage lenders came out, and we had a really successful program where we got some people into some housing just off of our first workshop, and we've since done a total of 8 workshops, and 40 loans have closed. So that's an exciting piece. We're really proud of what we're doing. And we recently did some public engagement. We helped co-host the Lake Leadership Summit. That was the 3rd summit. If you've ever not attended a summit, it's really a great program. Some really great speakers came out. Sabrina Andres came out. Oh, we had a speaker from Sonoma State. They talked about how to do social media marketing for your businesses. Sabrina came from A&H General Store, and she talked about how she went off to school and came back and opened her business in Kelseyville. And then we had Chief White. He had a great presentation on using social media for the Clearlake Police Department, how to change public perception, how to do a positive message. It was really a powerful presentation on how to just kind of twist things around into a positive spin, and it actually turned out to be a really great recruitment tool for him as well. So that was a great presentation. And now, let's see. Oh, we had about 100 people that came out, so next time you don't want to miss it because it was pretty packed room. So we're going to go ahead and move into what our 3 main goals were for this year. Implementing the Eiler strategy. We went into the first year and we had 3 primary goals that we focused on. And the first one was to identify 25 commercial properties, find a tool to use as a prospector tool that if someone was looking to come to Lake County, they'd have a place to go to find data and information about our commercial properties. Andy's going to share on that a little bit more in a minute. And then the second goal was Lamson Airfield. So we have the county that took the lead on that, and the chamber was involved in creating some meetings with the private owners, and Tina's going to give us a little update on that. Then we'll do a question and answer, and then after that we will talk about Broadband, which is the internet services that we've been working on. And Courtney Farrell and Dave Espinoza hopefully will be here by then. And they're going to give us an update. And I know that they've met before you and they gave you an idea of what they were working on and some progress. So we're just going to start from there and go forward and then do some question and answers. So Andy, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors and the 2 city councils and their staff for coming together for this meeting to allow an update on the economic development strategy, again, presented by Dr. Eiler last year. The Economic Development Corporation has been around since 1983. We've done a lot of different lending. We've done technical assistance. We've just gotten into the housing using that relationship with the USDA to retain workforce here. So I know Stephanie covered a lot of ground. She did mention that the folks from the Upstate California Connect Consortium, David Espinoza and Courtney Farrell, are en route right now. They're coming down from Chico. Hopefully the fog hasn't impacted their commute, but they will be here to present updates to the councils and the Board of Supervisors on the master broadband plan and dig once ordinance, and as Stephanie mentioned, we will get updates from the councils and the board about progress. But if I may, I'd like to talk quickly about the Zoom Prospector tool, which is a GIS planning tool. It's a large data capture tool that is on the Lake County Economic Development Corporation website, which is a website that contains business planning tools such as YouTube's on how to put together a business plan, how to access capital, how to prepare. And the idea behind implementing this tool, which was funded in a joint effort by the county and the two cities, as well as through negotiations by the EDC, was to have a kind of a catch-all for data. Data is what drives grant applications, different funding sources, so we have to have that data on file. And the idea was to utilize this tool for not just business attraction purposes, but also for business development. So those folks that are in business currently, they can access this tool just by clicking on the website under the Site Selectors tab and pull up all sorts of different data. This current screenshot here is for site selectors. So essentially about 200 commercial sites are now listed. Our goal was 25. We have about 200 commercial sites. We worked with the Lake County Association of Realtors to kind of get this data collected. Now there's information on several commercial sites that are available. Our hope for next year is to drill down, gather more infrastructure information, and get that inputted in. So when this website was launched, about 16,000 site selectors, economic developers around the world received the notice that this was launched, and every week the county and the two cities, as well as the EDC, receive a report from their lead generator, so we can see who's been on the site, how long, what they're looking at, so we can then respond to them and say, are you getting the information that you need? How can we be of assistance to help you get the information that you need, and come check out Lake County. The commercial site selector is a great tool, and then there's also this aspect of it for data. There's data that's updated quarterly, demographic data, so things about workforce, college education, and then also information on the communities throughout the county. You can do it by city, you can do it by unincorporated town, and then you can also search by the county, so you can have information that that's valuable. For instance, the Lake County Winery Association was looking for some data recently for a grant application. We worked with them to access this information, and then that helped them to put together a complete grant application, and we'll, fingers crossed, hopefully they'll be able to access funding. So it's not just a tool for business attraction, it's also a tool for community building, for nonprofits to access. So it's all about the gathering of the data. So we're very pleased to be able to utilize this tool. Thank you again to the county and the cities for contributing to this, to be able to use this tool. So that's kind of the conclusion of the Zoom Prospector, the EDC website. But that was goal one for this past year regarding the economic development strategy, and goal two was to fund infrastructure improvements such as public bathrooms and wastewater treatment at Lamson Airfield. For that update, I will turn it over to Supervisor Scott to discuss a little bit about what the county is currently doing at the airport.
Is there a chance for questions throughout this, or do you have to wait till the end?
If you want to go ahead and ask a question as we go, that's the board.
So I went on this website that you're talking about here, and it's I'm sure it's still in development, but so there's the property address, but there's really no details on it, and then the other, that's just an observation, but the question I have is, given the ability with technology to put a ton of information on there without taking up paper space, why do we limit it to 25? Why don't you put every commercial lot that's available on there?
Thank you. The goal was to get 25 sites inputted into the data set here, but currently there's actually 200. So there's not a cap on it. There's an automatic feed from officespace.com to this site selector, and what it is there's almost 200. There should be about 200 commercial sites in there currently, so there's no cap when those sites become available through the MLS listing. They're sent to that website. So there should be approximately 200 sites in there currently, and there's no cap, but what we're working on this year will be to get more detailed information on those commercial sites.
So my question is, obviously we have a well-rounded board to provide the information as to what those sites are. Were these sites selected because the property owners are already trying to sell those sites, or are we looking at what is our economic development strategy and vision in a specific area that we'd like to see some development happening, that maybe we're doing a more proactive search of who the property owners are and if there's interest for them to want to sell so that we can meet our vision rather than don't want to use a wrong word, but going after the low-hanging fruit where somebody's already willing to sell it, and so let's try to see if economic development can occur there versus where the agencies would like to see economic development happening, which would make sense for access to infrastructure and access to the other stuff.
Thank you. Yes, the tool itself is a feed again from the listings that realtors have posted, commercial brokers have posted. And the idea in working with the Association of Realtors is to also gather more of an inventory, more of those details, but also we have been in communications with the jurisdictions to, identify the commercial properties that are most aligned with the economic development goals of each jurisdiction. It's a matter of, again, gathering that data and then getting it inputted. So we're working towards that, and that will be a goal for year 2 to make sure that we're in collaboration with those goals.
The two most prevalent listings for commercial real estate is LoopNet, and the other one is CRXI. I don't know if you have a way to make sure that our listings are listed on those sites or vice versa, because they're typically not in your typical MLS listing.
The one thing that's glaring to me, I haven't looked at all of them, but the first 7 are the same realtor.
And so again, through the automatic feed of the MLS, those properties that are listed there on either officespace.com, but I think if we can access LoopNet and those others that Vice Mayor Slutin mentioned to get more properties in there, that is certainly a goal. But it is again an automatic feed from Office Space, and that was due to it's difficult to keep updates on properties with individual realtors and individual listings. So that will be something that the EDC will work on going forward next year.
I didn't notice tie-in on the website to indicate the commercial properties that are falling inside the opportunity zones. Is that something we could be adding to their website?
There are layers in the site selector. There are layers. You can filter either opportunity zone, different tax incentives that are available, They used to have enterprise zone. So there are ways to filter out and drill down, either if you want land or a commercial building. So there are different ways to filter that out, and the reports that are generated can be exported through PDF or Excel format. So there's ways to keep it electronically sent out to those site selectors. But there are ways, and we can also, depending on with staff, we can arrange for uses like a tutorial, a half hour of how to best use the tool. The tech support that comes with this tool is all free. They do weekly different webinars on how to engage the site selectors, how to best market the properties. So that could be something that we'd be happy to share through a presentation to the EDC board, and they can relay that to the jurisdictions. But there are ways to drill down to get the information that you're looking for.
Thank you so much.
So, for example, the city of Clear Lake, all the properties that are owned by the city or the former redevelopment agency are listed on this site, and it does specify that they're in an opportunity zone. I think one of the challenges has been that the Board of Realtors has been reluctant to provide a direct link into this site. We haven't met with them about that, but I think one of the reasons that you see more listings from certain realtors too is that realtors can have access to this site and upload their properties. Some see it as more valuable than others, I think, and are doing that, but not all of them are. So we need to find more ways to connect with LoopNet and these other places to pull them in automatically.
I just go to the multiple listings, it shows 61 commercial sites in Lake County. So if there are 200, there are 61 multiple listings on Realty's website.
Well, we will follow up with GIS, the contractor that does this, to make sure that the information is accurate, and we're putting our best foot forward. Any other questions or comments from the jurisdictions right now before I turn it over to Chair Scott?
Do you have any data to show an increase in people going to the website and looking at that? Like, do you have any data already thus far?
We do have data. The site has been visited several hundred times, and what we try to do is periodically do news releases that come out that remind those site selectors that Lake County is here and open for business. And the nice thing about this tool is, again, you can monitor how the performance has been with different posts. So we're able to see that, and every time we do that notice, we do see an increase in activity. Okay?
Thank you.
Supervisor Scott, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Airport. Our first priority with our airport is to make sure that our proposed improvements are compatible with the federal aeronautics requirements, such as taxiways and runways and fencing nearby. We also need to determine future needs of businesses and developers, and look at extending the runways, which will accommodate larger aircraft into our airport, which will help with CAL FIRE and will create jobs in the area. We've also had the airport manager of the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development. He toured the airport, and he strongly recommended that we apply for funding from the EDA to prepare for long-term airport economic development strategies to address issues that are barriers to improve the airport, and create a long-term funding strategy for the improvements needed at the airport. This strategy must include participation by the FFA, the cities and the county, and local businesses and developers. We have set up a committee at the airport. We haven't actually met yet, but we're in the process of putting that together to meet to talk about these issues and funding. I'm hoping to meet by the first of the year to be able to tackle this. I know that there has been work done at the airport. There is now a pilot's lounge because of the work between the county and the Chamber of Commerce has been very very part of this, working with us, that now when the pilots land, they're not just using the portable toilets. They will have a pilot's lounge where they will be able to have access to internet and articles and items from the county, so they know where to go for restaurants and lodging and such, and be able to bring things back with them. We've also had the runway repaved, so that is great. I know that took a little bit longer than we were hoping to. It was put off, but that has been finished. So that's a great improvement also for our airports. Any questions? We do not have a date on that meeting. We just started talking about that. There's some investors that want to come in and help us with our runway extension.
Tina?
Yes.
I understand that the general plan for the airport is I understand that the master plan or general plan for the airport is really old. Is there a time frame when that's going to be updated? Because I think you can get money from the FAA on that too.
That's something that this committee will also be looking at.
Currently, there is no plan to update the general plan that includes the airport. The airport doesn't have its own general plan, but the area plan for Lakeport, there's no timeline for an update right now. I've tried to get that, but that's been unsuccessful.
Oh, there's a comment from the audience. Oh.
The restaurant district is also in the
Yeah, yes, the restaurant, I believe it's Red's, yes.
Oh, sorry. Has there been any committee meetings, and who's on the committee?
The committee has not met. It actually consists of myself, Supervisor Brown, Scott De Leon, and he's supposed to be putting others together for that committee.
Part of the commission that...
Yes. Did the cities put...
Yes, I'm on it.
Okay.
So is the commission the same as the committee?
I don't believe so. Or is it? I don't know.
That was my understanding.
Okay. I'll have Andy answer that. All right.
It was my understanding when we put it on the Board of Supervisors to reactivate the original committee that was there, whether it's called the commission or the committee. It was to reactivate the historical group that would typically be a part of making decisions for what occurred around the area of the airport.
Okay. And both cities have a seat on that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And that's meet by the end of the year?
Yes, we will make a meeting within the next week and hopefully meet by the first of the year or shortly after. Okay, if there's nothing further, then Andy will.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Melissa Fulton, who's the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, just to elaborate, just to touch on the work that happened between the private sector on that.
Thank you. Due to the Isla report, when our chamber board had its retreat last January, we identified two what we call champion projects. And Lisa Wilson, our vice president of the chamber board, suggested this, and out of that suggestion, we identified Broadband as a champion for the chamber to work on this year, as well as the Pilot's Lounge at the airport. So we contacted Scott De Leon. I met with the property owner of the airport and the restaurant and several other pieces out there. We all got together. Lance Butcher, director on our chamber board, is the champion, is the chair for the champion project of the Pilot's Lounge. And it's been very successful. The building, thanks to a lot of effort on the part of the property owner, has been very much remodeled. There is now an indoor bathroom, so we don't have Lakeport Disposal's very best blue room. There is a code on the door. One of our chamber directors, actually our finance officer, Diane Plant, donated a very large acrylic brochure holder, so that will contain information of interest to people flying in to visit the area. That will be installed. The chamber is now seeking to work with Celia Holberg, who is actually the airport manager, if you will, to identify window coverings, also the amount of furniture, what furniture we need in there, as far as making it a comfortable place for visitors to come in. So I think we have been very successful. We feel we've been very successful thanks to partnership with the county and also with the property owner. So we're very hopeful that that will be open and accessible very, very soon. We had a meeting out there week before last. So now we're looking at furniture, internet access, and anything else that is needed. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. So now,
I think we have.
Oh, sorry.
Just to clarify the commission/committee, Clearlake has got, I'm the member and Vice Mayor Slotin is an alternate. And I assume, as I understanding, then Lakeport also has a member named?
Yes.
So perhaps we need to have all of us on a mailing list so that we're all in the loop as to what's happening.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. So the first two primary goals were, again, the commercial sites and the infrastructure improvements. The third was the expansion of broadband services to commercial and residential users not adequately served now. Currently, internet service providers are able to manipulate the data a little bit, wherein they can look at one house in a census block and say that house is served to the standards of the California Public Utilities Commission, therefore that entire census block is served. So in Lake County, due to our beautiful topography, the trees, the hills, it's difficult to access reliable high-speed broadband internet. And one way, and the county has really led the way through the Business Attraction and Retention Committee of the Lake County Economic Development Corporation, along with the two cities, to gather data and work with a group out of Chico State. They are the Upstate California Connect Consortium. And Lake County is a part of this consortium. It also includes Glenn County and Colusa County. The jurisdictions have heard a presentation regarding the development of a master broadband plan and draft Dig Once ordinance by Dr. David Espinoza, who's with us today. He is heading the work with regard to Lake County through the consortium, and he will briefly present updates to the master broadband plan. The consortium itself has been really great in working with us because all their work is at no cost to any Lake County citizen or jurisdiction. Their goal is to expand broadband services throughout the consortium area, and they do this through data collection. So data collection through CalSpeed app. It's an application for your desktop, for your tablet, for your phone that you can run from your business or wherever you are in Lake County, and then that information is confidentially relayed to the consortium, gathered and mapped so that the consortium can identify those areas that are unserved or underserved. And they take that data and use it to incentivize the internet service providers to build out infrastructure through grants, USDA grants, California Emerging Technology Fund grants. And the idea is to incentivize these internet service providers to build out infrastructure. Essentially, those grants help their return on investment because broadband infrastructure is quite costly. So I think many of us in the room are aware of what the AT&Ts have said with regard to not building out much more infrastructure in Lake County just because of the high cost. So the idea is to work with David and the consortium to gather this data and then again help incentivize these ISPs. And it's not even the larger ones. There are several ISPs that serve Lake County. So however we can incentivize them to build out, that's our goal. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. David Espinoza with the Upstate California Connect Consortium.
County supervisors, cities city council members, Lake County partners, everyone. Again, thank you very much for. Thank you very much for inviting the Upstate California Connect Consortia to present again. I'm going to start by presenting a summary of kind of our main effort that we were working with our partners in Lake County, which is developing a Lake County Master Broadband Plan, which can work to support expansion of broadband services of the county and also of the jurisdictions, including Lakeport and Clearlake. The main parts of this plan include first a background and introduction, which presents current broadband standards and definitions by the FCC, by the California Public Utility Commission. It includes importance for broadband, including services that can help education, healthcare, economic development, manufacture, agriculture, emergency services. And it also includes current highest demand drivers for broadband services. The plan also includes the current landscape of broadband services in Lake County for residential and business services, for services provided by wireline ISPs, by fixed wireless providers, and for this assessment, we use data from the CPUC. The CPUC collects this data from ISPs once a year and put it together in what they call the broadband availability data. The plan also includes recommendations for improvement service by including expansion of broadband infrastructure services, which is focused on expanding, upgrading, or launching new networks. This expansion can be done under state or federal grants. Currently, the CPUC and the state of California is aiming to achieve 98% broadband service availability in California. And currently, Lake County has around 80% broadband service availability. That means that there is still around 18% to go. The CPUC has $300 million for the broadband infrastructure account. And based on CPUC 2018 data, there is around 25,000 households in Lake County. And if currently served on at the speed 6.1, that means that's only around 20,000 households. Then there is 5,000 households that are still served at speeds below 6.1. So we have the grants, we have 5,000 households that aren't served. So I think the idea would be to help working together with ISPs, with the county, with local jurisdictions, to get the ISPs to apply for these grants. The next coming grant is due April the 1st, 2020, and our consortia can work with any ISPs willing to apply for these grants. And that information is also provided in the section of the Master Broadband Plan. I'm sorry, the previous slide. In this third section of the plan, which includes recommendations for improving broadband coverage and service. The plan also includes recommendations about what local governments can do to promote this broadband services expansion. including supporting the development and implementation of policies and ordinances that can reduce technical and financial barriers for this broadband deployment. Some examples are the DIGWAN's policy, developing conduit standards for this one policy too, developing an asset inventory, and a master lease agreement so the local jurisdictions can lease these assets to ISPs, so that will reduce upfront costs. The good thing is that currently the county and the jurisdictions has started reviewing these policies, so you all are already ahead in this process. The plan also includes at the end recommendations for improving broadband service adoption, which includes some ideas for partnering with local organizations to get access to low-cost equipment, low-cost or low-income internet service plans, among others. We started working that plan this year, and by constant communication with our local partners, bi-weekly updates or checking calls, we were able to incorporate additional elements proper from Lake County. Input from local partners and feedback, which includes references and input from Dr. Ayler's report on the community forums and recommendations for economic development, that he points that broadband currently is important for businesses and industrial areas, and that local jurisdictions and ISPs should start looking into applying for this federal and state funding. We incorporate those references. We also incorporate references for specific grants for broadband infrastructure from federal and state sources. We also include the broadband project selection criteria, highlighting that ISPs should work with local partners, local stakeholders, in order to gather the inputs about broadband needs. It also includes defining specific priority areas for projects and defines what would be the technology options for these potential projects. Finally, we also incorporated the current regulatory framework that ISPs and local governments can have in order to work with Caltrans to install conduit and fiber in any coming Caltrans project along state highways. That's kind of what's the main elements of the master broadband plan and the updates that we have been working together. And due to all this collaborative hard work, we were able to complete the final version in November, just last November, and we sent it to all our partners in Lake County, and I think currently it's under review by all of you. So looking forward to see what we can work and to see if hopefully this plan can get approved and implemented. Thank you. Thank you.
Supervisor Brown, if you could get a microphone in front of you.
I got a quick question. I remember when you did the presentation for us, and I understand the concept. It's a great idea, but the practicality of it is far different than the presentation. Asking Caltrans to let us put infrastructure in their right-of-way is really easy. But getting the money to actually put the infrastructure in, when one entity, say the broadband, say any of them, water, sewer, whatever, they're ready to do it. They've gone through years and years of environmental grant applications. They finally got the money to put their infrastructure in the ground. So based on the dig once, you tell everybody else, now's your only chance. You have to do it right now. Well, they haven't done all that yet. They're not on the same time frame, and you can't expect any entity, especially, I don't know who does this in the cities or whatever. Maybe they are able to do it, but up here, you couldn't expect any of the three of us to be able to say, well, you know what, we'll put the conduit in, and then we'll just have it there in case we need it for later, because that's a lot of money. And without that grant funding for the entire project, part of the project's not going to happen. So while I understand the concept of it, I don't know, there may be a couple people in this room that have maybe actually done excavation for a living and understand, how big you have to make a trench in order to keep the sewer away from the water, away from the electrical, away from the broadband, and all that. You don't just throw it in a ditch and cover it up. And so to be able to do that, it takes an awful lot of coordination that I don't think we have the resources to do that. So how do you do that? You mentioned earlier, you get Caltrans to do it, but I know you didn't mean to have them do it because they're not going to do it. They'll let us do it through some effort, but how do you do that? How do you actually see this actually happening?
Well, the whole process of DIG1's policy is kind of also a new concept. Different public utilities, telecommunications company, historically have been work separate their own infrastructure projects. DSL providers were telephone companies, cable providers using DOCSIS were cable service, mobile carriers, but they were not used to work together to install infrastructure. This policy aims to start working that potential collaboration, to get potential partners to discuss how to do it. Individually, it would be really expensive for each telecommunications company to do their own trenching, their own installing conduit, and installing fiber optics. So that will help to kind of distribute the cost. And there are many factors to include, for example, that designing which specific would be priority areas to expand the service, perhaps unserved residential areas, business areas. If we draft that in a map and we can identify any excavation project along that route, it will be, I think, convenient and will help ISPs to assess if that would be a good choice to install the conduit. And if at that moment no ISP is willing, and it will be a potential future market for broadband deployments, I think that if the jurisdictions can assess to install the conduit for future leasing, that would be a good opportunity. And depending on each project, the cost, if the planning for the installation of the conduit is from the beginning, it can range from $2 to $5 a foot. If it's later in the process, can get up to $20 or $25 per foot. But I think it's worth to start the coordination, because otherwise there won't be any coordination. And in some cases, some larger big ISPs are already working with other entities installing the conduit. Those installations, the coordination and sharing of the costs are already happening. Now with this one's policy, we are trying to open it for more ISPs to also participate in that coordination. Because I think, for example, AT&T is very aware. They have a lot of people in the ground that every time there is an opportunity to install, they work with public utilities to do that. I think extending that opportunity to a larger pool of ISPs can help to create a more competitive market and accelerate broadband expansion.
Okay, so basically you confirmed the concept, which I understand, but the reality of how to do it is not, you haven't gotten to that point yet.
I'm sorry.
How we're supposed to pay for putting water line, putting sewer line in to be used later. So,
Rob, can I respond to that? To what you're saying? I know that what David is offering us is not the idea of that we automatically place conduit. I know I brought that as a concept to the board of the idea, because I don't, in my summary, I had mentioned that the idea of the dig once is that you don't want to dig it back up for at least 3 to 5 years, so that we're not always digging into a new freshly made road. And so I offered that we put conduit. That was not the original intention of the dig once policy, that we automatically pay for that. So that can or doesn't have to be there.
we invite them on our projects rather than the other way around.
And so the idea is that it's supposed to be conducive to better collaboration of utility companies, so that we can try at least to get more in the ground at the same time. It doesn't mean it has to happen. I know we have Sean Swatosh over here, and he did approach the board and say that he was happy to work with us with the dig once policy. Let's see what happens, and it's nice to have that positive comment made by a utility company to see how we can move forward with that. For the Caltrans answer, as of 2017, any project that Caltrans works on, they are supposed to put in fiber optics. So it's at no cost to us. That's part of the state program that if they do work on any new project that's been created as of 2017, they have to go ahead and implement that. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that I know I brought a specific angle to the board. That's not necessarily what we have to go move forward with.
So just clarify.
Oh, sorry.
So what you're saying is whenever we do a project or we anticipate, well, okay, anybody, any of the entities, we're only responsible for us. We can't tell anybody else what they have to do. But when we're planning a sewer project, which sometimes they're years out, or a water line, we let all the utilities know now so they can start working on their project.
And if they want to, great. If they don't want to, we keep moving
Okay,
forward.
so I guess I'm missing the whole concept. I mean, that's easy to do. That's just common courtesy. But we're talking about an ordinance here. An ordinance is supposed to be, if you don't do it, here's what's going to happen. So
The ordinance is meant to at least let people aware that there will be a hole that they can participate in. If they
Okay.
choose not to participate in, the project moves forward.
okay, that's a policy. That's, yeah.
Yeah, the language includes that the telecom companies can opt in to the project.
Okay, so basically we're creating an ordinance to make a suggestion.
To enable coordination. Yeah.
For better communication and better coordination.
I think we have that already, so I don't know what
Yes, in order to, like in the case, many of the bigger ISPs already knows of these potential existing projects, but extending coordination to all ISPs in the jurisdiction might help to include more competitors.
Is there any further questions from the councils or the board before I open up to public?
One quick question. Andy.
Here.
You said there's a app that you can check to how fast your internet is, that data goes to you. What was that again? So I can check myself.
The app is CalSpeed app, and we will have a slide later with the link and more information on CalSpeed.
There's nothing further. Then Andy, did you have more? Oh, okay. I'll open up to public. If you can come up to the microphone.
Should I come up here? Yes, thank you.
Just so we're not having any feedback, we just want you to.
Sure. So my question.
If you could introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Terry Logston.
Terry.
My question is, in the past, locally owned WISPs have not had access to CASF funding or federal funding because of the rules and regulations having to have $1 million set aside. Has that been addressed? Will locally owned WISP be able to?
Current eligible applicants for the CASF grants includes telephone corporations with a certificate of public necessity and convenience, also mobile carriers or mobile or wireless providers which are registered with the CPUC, facility-based broadband infrastructure providers, and if none of those eligible applicants apply, also local governments can apply. I think now have made it easier for fixed wireless providers to apply to. And considering that in Lake County there is around 5,000 unserved households, I think trying to reach out to all those households will come from different ISPs, different technologies. I think will be kind of very challenging and will require a lot of creativity and collaboration from many ISPs to reach all these 5,000 households.
Any further public comment? Nope.
I'm Andrew White. I'm the Chief of Police with City of Clearlake. I had a question regarding the plan. I know you're talking primarily about fiber infrastructure, but obviously the rest of the state and throughout the United States, they're moving beyond that and using that as backhaul and looking at 5G microsites. I know you were talking about the Dig Once policy, but will your plan also include recommended language or ordinances regarding the small cell sites? Yes.
Well, for the asset inventory, it includes kind of any tall structure such as buildings, poles, water tank. I think having all that information in place will help ISPs also to plan future deployments of small cells, 5G, and those ones will require also high capacity point-to-point backhauls, fiber optic backbones too. I think that kind of working towards the asset inventory and a master lease agreement will help also to promote small cell and 5G deployments.
Yes, come on up to the microphone. We still need you to come up to the microphone and introduce so we can.
Is it okay to introduce it now?
Oh.
So my name's Rick Warwick. I moved here to Lower Lake about 2 years ago. I'm a commercial real estate appraiser, and so In the course of my work in Central and Southern California, every time I would appraise a property, I look at the economic conditions of the area just to kind of put in perspective what the values might be because of that. Some of you know me because since moving here, I pop my head into meetings and I keep offering ideas about things. And just recently, I've started doing appraisals here in Lake County, and I have an observation I want to share that I'm hoping that the EDC and whoever else is trying to develop the economy will maybe take forward from here. And I should first say that I had no idea I was going to love this place so much when I moved up here. But I do, and I also want to say that I really appreciate all the efforts that everybody is doing to make improvements, and I think they're all good, and I think they should all be done. But in my observation, I have good news and bad news. And the good news is that there is a single metric, economic metric, that if the county focuses on it and can make an improvement to it, then we will be able to say that instead of our economy not being so very great, it'll actually start to be good. And that metric is the median household income. Here in Lake County, the median household income is about $40,000 a year. That means that one person is making about 20 bucks an hour, or more likely 2 people are making 10 bucks an hour, or in a lot of households it's 3 or 4 people working part-time jobs making not very much money at all. And the reason that's significant is that with a median household income of $40,000, retail investors and developers aren't excited about coming here because people don't have the money to spend in the retail stores. Home builders aren't excited about coming here because people really can't afford to buy houses. And so the good news is if you can focus on that metric and get that to go up. The surrounding counties, like Sonoma County has a median household income of $80,000. Napa County is $88,000. Every county that is contiguous to Lake County has a median household income that is higher than ours. So that's the good news. There's a metric that you can use to really improve the economic conditions. The bad news is if you don't do that, then 5 years from now, even with all the good things that have happened, when I write a real estate report, I will be having to say that the economy of Lake County is still not so great. Now, I don't have any answers about how that gets done, but I do have a world of ideas. I've seen a lot of jurisdictions that have become known for their abilities to incent businesses to come to their jurisdiction, and I would be more than happy to help formulate a strategy for doing that. But that's just my observation, and take it for what you will. And if you have any questions, Andy knows how to get a hold of me. Feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Okay, Andy.
Thank you. So if we may, I'd like to transition from the master broadband plan discussion to the discussion specifically that relates to data collection, which was mentioned earlier. I'd like to turn it over to David. We have had lots of good progress when we do these press releases to request data collection. The chambers, the jurisdictions have also pushed these releases out, requests for data. It's fairly easy to use. As soon as you download the app, you can run the speed test. David's going to elaborate just briefly on the data collection aspect. Prior to the data collection presentation, we'd like to turn it over to Supervisor Sabatier to provide an update regarding the Dig Once and Master Broadband Plan.
So I'll just be brief on this. I'll just go around the room as well. The county has had a discussion about Dig Once. We did go ahead and say let's move forward and bring back a policy for us to approve. That is still in the works. I know the city of Clearlake has done the same thing. They've had initial discussions. They're awaiting something to come to their council to approve as well. The city of Lakeport, same situation, except that they did just have the Dig Once come to their board for approval, and it was approved about a week ago. So that's where we are overall as a county, where Dig Once is something we're all discussing, and one of us so far out of the 3 has approved and moved forward on it. So we'll see where we go with the other 2.
Thank you. And with regard to the data collection, the asset inventory, the three jurisdictions and the general public have been very helpful in identifying those assets, the water towers, the higher points around the county that could be used for broadband infrastructure development. David?
Thank you, Andy. And congrats on that D1's ordinance. As Andy mentioned, we have been working with the three jurisdictions and with our EDC and local partners to validate the speed and the coverage reported by the ISPs. For that, we use the tool developed by the CPUC that is called CalSpeed. Any computer, tablet, mobile device can download that app and run, and it will conduct a speed test and will send the results to the CPUC, and the CPUC will be able to map that result. From the time we started our current consortium work, which is mid-2017, these are the results of the CalSpeed testing that were happening in Lake County. In the first quarter of 2017, we had only one mobile test, and I recall we had our first meeting with our local partners in Lake County at the end of 2017. And we can see that in that quarter, we already got 91 CalSpeed tests, which include some of them carried out from a desktop, from a home device, home computer, and 28 were carried out by mobile devices. It can be carried out either by if you conduct the test at home, in your PC, in your laptop, in your tablet, it will tell you test the speed of your fixed residential provider. If you do it in your phone, outside, it will test the speed of the mobile carrier. Then in 2017, we started getting some more speed tests, going from in the first quarter 155, then 71, 19, which made it a grand total in 2018 to 264. In 2019, we did not get to count to the last quarter yet, but so far we were having higher tests than before. I think the quarters when the total number of speed tests went more than 100, like in this case, second quarter 2019, 154 tests, that's when Andy and the EDC spread the word about to different residential customers, local partners, to download and run the test. If we see this in a plot, in the next slide, we can see that we went almost from 0 in 2.5 years to close to 500 to 600 CalSpeed tests countywide in all the local towns and jurisdictions. So, and this is the case only for desktops, testing fixed residential service. We have around 450 tests. Why we are conducting these tests, again, is to learn what are the current areas, locations, census block, households that currently serve at the speeds below 6.1. In those tests, you can see in 2017, 18, and 19, we have identified 150 location households that currently are below the 6.1 threshold, and 75 households that has not service at all. So that will help to identify potential eligible areas for the CASF grants. And before moving to the business broadband survey results, the next step that the CPUC is taking, in addition to just having the CalSpeed app for residential customers and business customers to run, now the CPUC has developed these home test devices that can be installed at home, and it automatically will run speed tests every 2 hours. The CPUC has conducted a few months ago a pilot program for this test, and it went well. Now it's going to implement it statewide, and in coming weeks it will start looking for volunteers to sign up to get these devices at your home so it can conduct tests for a longer period of time. We will get in contact with our local partners here to try to get sign-ups and volunteers from the different jurisdictions. That would be kind of the next step, but we still encourage everyone in Lake County, mobile users, fixed residential internet users, to still download and run CalSpeed. We also started rolling out business broadband survey to learn what's the current status and service that the business owners and industrial customers perceive about the internet service. We just started close to mid this year, and we slowly started to get more business customers to start filling out the survey. You can see that we have some service filled from Clearlake, Lakeport, Lower Lake, Kelseyville, Nice, Lakeport. And as of September 2019, we had 7, that's the month that we had the highest number of surveys. I haven't gotten the chance to check what are the current results for October and November, but that's an initiative where we will continue needing the help of our local partners to try to get the businesses to fill this survey. That will help us to identify what are the areas and the needs for business and industrial areas. So for the planning, for future expansion deployments, ISPs, which using private investment or applying to the state or federal grants, can also plan to reach those areas when planning the fiber optic routes to reach and serve areas. Kind of will help to aggregate potential demand, including unserved residential households, but also business and industrial areas. So it would be important to learn what are the needs of businesses, and one way to do is through filling this survey. That's all from the update on the survey and CalSpeed.
David, how many volunteers are you hoping to volunteer to put these devices in their homes?
I don't know exactly by the top of my head. The CPUC is running a statistic analysis which needs a certain number of samples or volunteers from Lake County, and they mentioned that they were interested to having some volunteers from Middletown that currently has DSL service. They want to test those speeds and those type of services.
CPUC's commission is?
Yeah, the CPUC, the California Public Utility Commission.
I'm familiar with them. They're the same ones that oversee PG&E.
No, PG&E is the electric company.
Any questions from the council? Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public on this item? Okay. Andy?
Thank you, David. One last slide here. CalSpeed.org is the URL for the CalSpeed application. We would like to encourage everybody today to please look up the CalSpeed app, download it, and run the speed test. And in your various meetings around the county, run it from these different locations. I'd like to thank the chamber and the jurisdictions for pushing this out to help gather those data points. They will be helpful in these future applications for grants. At this time, I'd just like to, again, thank the board of the Economic Development Corporation, the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay, the City of Lakeport, the City of Clearlake, and the Lake County Board of Supervisors for contributing to the development of this economic development strategy and taking the time today to come and provide updates on this important strategy. Year 2 is obviously upcoming, and the Economic Development Corporation will be working on its priorities as directed by the Board of Directors and those representatives from the public and private sectors. So I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. Please download the CalSpeed app and run it when you can. And I'll turn it back over to Chairwoman Scott.
Okay. If there's no further questions, then I will call the special meeting adjourned, and we'll have each council do the same.
Yes, Clearlake City Council now adjourns this meeting.
City of Lakeport is adjourning this meeting.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.